What if the biggest obstacle between you and the life you've always wanted isn't your circumstances, isn't your bank account, isn't your education, isn't even your past, but the invisible prison inside your own mind? Think about that for a moment. A prison built not with steel bars and concrete walls, but with thoughts you've repeated so many times they've become your reality. A prison constructed from beliefs you adopted before you were old enough to question them. A prison guarded by your own fears, patrolled by your own doubts, and reinforced every single day by habits you don't even realize you have. Here is the most terrifying truth about this prison: you hold the keys. You've always held them. But you've been conditioned to believe the door doesn't open. Conditioned to believe this is simply how life is. Conditioned to believe that who you are today is who you will always be. Let me tell you about someone who discovered exactly how wrong that belief can be. Her name is Elena. And if you met her on any ordinary Tuesday, you would see nothing remarkable about her. She is 34 years old. She works as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company. She lives alone in a one-bedroom apartment that she can barely afford. She has a small circle of friends who she sees once a month if she's feeling social, which she rarely is. But here is what you wouldn't see. You wouldn't see the dream she carries with her every single day. The dream that wakes her up at 3 in the morning and refuses to let her go back to sleep. The dream she has been carrying since she was 12 years old, sitting in her grandmother's kitchen, watching her grandmother paint. Elena's grandmother was an artist. Not a famous one, not a wealthy one, but an artist in the truest sense of the word. She painted because she had to. Because the colors inside her demanded to be released onto canvas. Because she could not exist in this world without creating. Elena would sit for hours watching her grandmother's hands move across the canvas. Those hands, weathered by time and work, transformed into something else entirely when they held a brush. They became instruments of magic. They became conduits for something Elena couldn't name but could deeply feel. You have it too, her grandmother would say, looking at Elena with eyes that saw straight through her. The gift. The need. Don't let the world talk you out of it. Elena believed her grandmother. She believed her until the day her grandmother died. And then slowly, over the years that followed, the world began its patient work of talking her out of everything she believed. Let's step into Elena's morning. The alarm screams at 6:47 a.m. Not 6:30. Not 7 o'clock. 6:47, because 6:47 is the absolute latest she can wake up and still make it to work on time. She hits snooze twice. She always hits snooze twice. Her thumb knows the motion before her mind is even conscious. She rolls out of bed and immediately checks her phone. Not for messages from friends or family. She checks for emails from work. She tells herself this is responsibility. This is being a good employee. But if she's honest, and she rarely is, she's checking because she's afraid. Afraid she's missed something. Afraid someone has discovered she's not as competent as they think she is. Afraid of being exposed as the fraud she secretly believes herself to be. She showers without really feeling the water. She brushes her teeth without tasting the toothpaste. She makes coffee without smelling it. Her body performs the motions while her mind already races ahead to the day's tasks, the meetings she dreads, the emails she doesn't want to answer. She stands in front of her closet and feels the familiar wave of inadequacy wash over her. None of these clothes are right. None of them make her feel like the person she wishes she was. She settles on the same black pants and gray blouse she wore last Tuesday because at least that combination is safe. At least that combination won't draw attention. This is Elena's morning. This is Elena's every morning. And here is what she doesn't realize: every single one of these small choices is a brick in her prison wall. The snooze button. The phone check. The automatic shower. The unfeeling coffee. The safe clothes. Each one is a vote for who she believes herself to be, and that person is small, and scared, and convinced she doesn't deserve more. At work, Elena is efficient. She has learned to be efficient because efficiency keeps her invisible. If she does her work quickly and competently, no one looks too closely at her. No one asks what she really wants. No one asks if she's happy. Her office is a gray cubicle in a gray building on a gray street. There are no windows. She has a small framed photo of her grandmother on her desk, but she has turned it away from view. She couldn't tell you why she did that. She couldn't tell you why looking at her grandmother's face makes her feel something painful and sharp in her chest, something she would rather not feel. Her co-workers have learned not to talk to her about personal things. She has perfected the art of the polite deflection. When they ask about her weekend, she says fine and changes the subject. When they ask about her plans, she says nothing special and returns to her screen. She has made herself into someone who is easy to overlook. And here is the psychological reality that Elena doesn't understand: her brain has been taking notes this entire time. Her brain has been paying close attention to every single interaction, every single choice, every single moment. And her brain has reached a conclusion based on all of this evidence. The conclusion is, she is not important. The conclusion is, her dreams are not valid. The conclusion is, she belongs exactly where she is and nowhere else. This is the confirmation bias at work. Once Elena's brain decided she was small and incapable, it began looking for evidence to support that belief. And it found evidence everywhere. In the coworker who didn't say hello one morning. In the project that was assigned to someone else. In the promotion she didn't get, even though she never actually applied for it. Her brain didn't notice the friend who checked in on her. It didn't notice the one time someone complimented her work. It didn't notice the small kindnesses that came her way. The brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and Elena's brain had locked onto a very specific pattern, the pattern of her own inadequacy. The evening comes, and Elena returns to her apartment. She stands in the entryway and surveys her kingdom. It's not much. A worn couch. A stack of books she intends to read but never starts. A television that serves as her primary companion. A kitchen that she uses only to heat frozen meals. On a shelf in the corner is a box. It's a small box, dusty and forgotten. Inside that box are Elena's art supplies. Paints she bought 5 years ago, still in their original packaging. Brushes that have never touched canvas. A sketch pad with blank pages. She looks at the box sometimes. She looks at it and feels something stir in her chest, something old and familiar. Something that sounds like her grandmother's voice. Something that whispers, "You have it too." And then she feels the fear. The fear is a physical sensation. It tightens her chest. It speeds her heart. It creates a buzzing in her ears that makes it hard to think. The fear says, "What if you try and you're not good enough?" The fear says, "What if you've been deluding yourself all these years?" The fear says, "Better to keep the dream in the box. Better to keep the dream safe. Better to never know for certain than to discover you were never meant to be anything more than what you are right now." So Elena turns away from the box. She turns on the television. She scrolls through her phone. She eats her frozen dinner. She goes to bed. And she dreams about her grandmother. In the dream, her grandmother is painting. She's painting something beautiful, something Elena can't quite see. Elena tries to get closer, but she can't. She tries to speak, but she has no voice. She wakes up at 3 a.m., and the dream is already fading, and the tears are already drying on her cheeks. She doesn't remember what she was dreaming about. But the sadness stays. The sadness always stays. This is the downward spiral of someone who has stopped believing in herself. And here is what modern psychology teaches us about the danger of this spiral: it is self-reinforcing. Every time Elena chooses safety over courage, her brain registers it as proof that she needs safety. Every time she avoids her dream, her brain registers it as proof that her dream is dangerous. Every time she turns away from the box, her brain registers it as proof that she is right to be afraid. She is caught in what psychologists call learned helplessness. The belief that you have no control over your circumstances, and that trying to change them is pointless. Learned helplessness is not a rational assessment of reality. It is a story you tell yourself. And like any story, it can be rewritten. But Elena doesn't know this. She doesn't know that her beliefs about herself are just beliefs, not facts. She doesn't know that her habits are just patterns, not permanent. She doesn't know that the woman she sees in the mirror is not who she has to be. She doesn't know any of this. And so the spiral continues. Let me tell you about the science of what is happening to Elena. Every single day, her brain is performing a miracle. It is processing millions of pieces of information. It is making thousands of decisions. It is creating the reality she experiences. But here's the thing about the brain, it is incredibly lazy. Not lazy in the way humans are lazy. Lazy in the way a machine that wants to save energy is lazy. The brain has a limited amount of energy to spend, so it looks for shortcuts. It creates automatic responses to recurring situations. It builds habits. A habit, in the simplest terms, is a loop. There is a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. Let's look at Elena's alarm clock habit. Trigger, the alarm goes off. Behavior, she hits snooze. Reward, she gets 9 more minutes of sleep, 9 more minutes of avoiding the day. The reward is dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical that makes us feel good. Elena gets a tiny hit of dopamine every time she hits snooze. Her brain loves this hit. Her brain wants more of this hit. So her brain reinforces the behavior. It makes the behavior easier. It makes the behavior automatic. This is how habits are formed. Not through strength of will or weakness of character. Through simple biochemistry. And here's the most important thing to understand about this process: the brain does not care about your goals. The brain does not care about your dreams. The brain does not care about who you want to be. The brain only cares about what is familiar. What is easy. What has worked in the past. Elena's brain has learned that hitting snooze works. It has learned that avoiding her art supplies works. It has learned that staying small and invisible works. Her brain has built a beautiful, efficient, incredibly destructive system for keeping her exactly where she is. This system is the source of her prison walls. Every habit that keeps her small is a brick in that wall. And every day she reinforces those habits, she adds another brick. But here is where the story takes a turn. Because Elena, despite everything, despite her fears and her doubts and her perfectly constructed prison, Elena is about to receive an unexpected visitor. It happens on a Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday. Not a significant Tuesday. Just a Tuesday. She's at work, going through her motions, being invisible, when her supervisor walks up to her cubicle. Elena's heart immediately races. Her brain begins its familiar script: what did I do wrong? What did they find out? What mistake did I make? Her supervisor is holding a piece of paper. He looks nervous. I'm going to be honest with you, Elena, he says. The company is downsizing. They're cutting a third of the staff. Elena's brain goes blank. She hears rushing in her ears. Her hands feel numb. You've always been reliable, her supervisor continues. But you're not, well, you're not really a standout, are you? She doesn't respond. She can't respond. Look, he says. I'm not supposed to tell you this. But I've watched you for 2 years. I've never seen you go after anything. I've never seen you fight for anything. I've never seen you be anything other than someone who just does enough to get by. He places the piece of paper on her desk. I wanted to give you a heads up before the official notice comes. If you want to keep your job, you're going to have to convince someone that you're worth keeping. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you've ever done that. He walks away. Elena stares at the paper. The paper is a notice about a new initiative. The company is launching a creative marketing campaign. They're looking for people to pitch ideas. They're looking for people who can think differently. They're looking for people who can stand out. And Elena realizes, for the first time in her adult life, that her entire system of invisibility has failed her. She has been trying so hard not to be seen that she has made herself into someone who is easy to let go. She has been so careful not to fail that she has never truly succeeded. She has been so terrified of being exposed as a fraud that she has become exactly what she feared. The box appears in her mind. The box on the shelf in her apartment. The box with the paints she never opened and the brushes she never used and the sketch pad with blank pages. She imagines opening that box. She imagines what would happen if she stopped hiding from herself. And she realizes, with a clarity that is almost painful, that the only thing she has to lose is the prison she's been living in. That night, Elena does something she hasn't done in 5 years. She opens the box. She sits on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by her unopened paints and unused brushes and blank sketchpad. She stares at them. She feels the familiar fear rising in her chest. She feels the familiar tightness and the familiar buzzing and the familiar voice that says, "Don't bother, you're not good enough, you'll only disappoint yourself." But she also hears another voice. It's her grandmother's voice. "You have it too," the voice says. The gift. The need. And Elena realizes that her grandmother never said she would be good at it. Her grandmother never said she would be successful. Her grandmother only said, "You have it. You have the need. You have the desire. You have the calling." And that was enough. Her grandmother never asked to be famous. She just asked to create. She just asked to exist in her art. She just asked to be true to the thing inside her that demanded expression. Elena picks up a brush. She dips it in paint. She touches the canvas. And then, nothing. Nothing happens. She's frozen. She doesn't know where to start. She doesn't know what to paint. She doesn't know anything. The fear returns. The fear says, "See. You don't even know how to begin. How could you possibly think you have anything to offer?" But Elena does something she's never done before. She acknowledges the fear without obeying it. She says out loud, to an empty room, "I don't know how to begin. And that's okay. I'm going to begin anyway. I'm going to begin badly. I'm going to begin messily. I'm going to begin in a way that makes me feel foolish and inadequate and exposed." She makes a stroke. It's ugly. She makes another stroke. It's worse. She makes a third stroke, and she can feel her grandmother's presence in the room, and she can feel her grandmother laughing with joy. Not because Elena is good. Not because Elena is talented. Not because Elena is creating something beautiful. But because Elena is finally trying. Because Elena is finally refusing to stay in the prison she built. Because Elena is finally beginning. Now, I want you to understand something very important about what Elena is experiencing. She hasn't changed her entire life overnight. She hasn't suddenly become motivated. She hasn't discovered a secret reservoir of discipline. She has simply done one thing differently. She has broken the habit loop. The habit loop in Elena's life was, fear triggers avoidance, avoidance triggers relief, relief reinforces fear. Every single time she avoided her art, she felt relief. And that relief was a reward. And that reward taught her brain that avoidance was the correct response. But now, Elena is introducing something new into the loop: courage. Fear triggers courage, courage triggers action, action triggers something unexpected. What does action trigger? It triggers pride. It triggers momentum. It triggers the realization that the fear was worse than the thing she was afraid of. This is the science of habits in action. James Clear, who is not here but whose ideas are echoing through this story, teaches us that habits are not built through dramatic transformations. They are built through small, consistent actions. The person who does one push-up every day is not building strength, they are building identity. They are becoming the person who does push-ups. Elena is not trying to become a great artist. She is trying to become the person who paints. And there's a difference. A profound difference. Becoming the person who paints means showing up every day, even when you don't want to. Even when you're afraid. Even when your first strokes are ugly and your second strokes are ugly and your third strokes are even worse. Becoming the person who paints means letting go of the fantasy of overnight success and embracing the reality of incremental progress. Becoming the person who paints means giving up the identity of someone who could be an artist if they tried and replacing it with the identity of someone who is an artist because they try. This is the power of identity-based habits. It's not about what you do. It's about who you become. Elena starts small. Very small. She decides that every single day, she will paint for 15 minutes. That's it. 15 minutes. She doesn't worry about whether it's good. She doesn't worry about whether she's improving. She doesn't worry about anything except showing up. The first week is agony. The 15 minutes feel like 15 hours. She struggles. She hates what she produces. She feels like a fraud, a pretender, someone playing at being an artist while the real artists are out there doing the actual work. But she keeps going. The second week is easier. Not good. Not successful. Just easier. The 15 minutes start to feel like 10. The struggle starts to feel like something she can manage. The third week, she completes her first painting. It's terrible. It's objectively terrible. But it's a painting. She completes a second painting. It's also terrible. But it's a little less terrible than the first one. She can see that. She can see the tiny bit of progress. The fourth week, something shifts. She finds herself looking forward to her 15 minutes. She finds herself thinking about what she'll paint before she even gets home. She finds herself excited. This is the dopamine loop working in her favor. Her brain has started to associate painting with reward. The reward isn't the painting itself. The reward is the feeling of showing up. The reward is the feeling of becoming who she wants to be. The reward is the feeling of the fear shrinking, just a little, every single day. Her brain, which has spent years reinforcing avoidance, is now reinforcing courage. And here's the miracle of this process: once the brain starts reinforcing courage, it looks for more courage. It looks for more opportunities to show up. It looks for more ways to be brave. This is the growth mindset at work. Carol Dweck's research, which I'm sure echoes in your minds, teaches us that people who believe they can grow are the people who do grow. People who believe their abilities are fixed are people who stay fixed. The belief itself creates the reality. Elena is starting to believe she can grow. She's starting to see herself not as a fixed thing, but as a process. She's starting to see that she isn't an artist because she produces beautiful work. She's an artist because she keeps showing up. She's an artist because she refuses to let the fear win. She's an artist because of the courage, not the talent. But here's where the story becomes more complicated. Because Elena isn't just changing her relationship with art. She's changing her relationship with everything. And when you start changing one thing, everything else shifts. She starts getting to work earlier. Not because she has to. Because she wants to. Because she's starting to feel like someone who cares about their life, and that person doesn't hit snooze 3 times. She starts paying attention to her co-workers. Not because she wants to network or impress anyone. Because she's starting to notice that other people have dreams too. Other people are scared too. Other people are pretending to be something they're not. She starts eating better. Not because she's on a diet. Because she's starting to believe she deserves better than frozen dinners and empty calories. She starts sleeping better. Because she's not lying awake worrying about the life she isn't living. This is the habit cascade. One change creates the conditions for another change. Success in one area breeds success in another area. The person who starts painting is the person who starts caring about their health. The person who starts caring about their health is the person who starts caring about their relationships. The person who starts caring about their relationships is the person who starts caring about their work. The prison walls aren't just crumbling. They're being dismantled. But here's what Elena doesn't know, the biggest challenge is still ahead of her. It happens 6 weeks into her journey. She's walking to work, and she feels something she hasn't felt in years. She feels good. Genuinely good. Not the temporary relief of avoiding something. Not the shallow pleasure of distraction. Genuine, deep, grounded good. She walks into the office, and she sees the notice board. The creative marketing campaign. The initiative that could save her job. The initiative that could be the chance she's been waiting for. And she feels the fear return. It's not the same fear she felt before. It's not the paralyzing fear of inadequacy. It's something different. It's the fear of exposure. What if she tries, she thinks, and she fails? What if she puts herself out there and everyone sees she's not good enough? What if the painting doesn't translate to marketing? What if she's an artist, but she can't be anything else? The old voice returns. Stay small, the voice says. Stay invisible. Stay safe. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just do your job and go home. But there's another voice now. Remember the box, this voice says. Remember how afraid you were to open it. Remember how you thought the fear would destroy you. And remember what happened when you opened it anyway. Elena stands in front of the notice board. She feels the battle happening inside her. The old self and the new self. The prison and the freedom. The fear and the courage. And she makes a decision. She walks to her desk, and she doesn't sit down. She turns around, and she walks to her supervisor's office. He's not there, but his assistant is. I want to submit an idea, Elena says. For the creative marketing campaign. The assistant looks surprised. You want to submit something? Yes, Elena says. Where do I sign up? She fills out the form. She writes her name. She writes her department. She writes a brief description of what she wants to do. And then she walks back to her desk. She doesn't know if her idea is good. She doesn't know if she'll be successful. She doesn't know if she'll keep her job. But she knows that she showed up. She knows that she's no longer the person who hides. And that matters more than any outcome. The days before her presentation are terrifying. Elena works on her pitch constantly. She comes home from work and spends her evenings refining it. She sketches designs. She writes copy. She practices in front of her mirror. Her grandmother's painting is on the wall now. Elena took it out of the box and hung it up. It's still terrible, but it's her terrible painting, and it reminds her of who she's becoming. The day of the presentation arrives. She stands in front of her supervisor and a panel of executives. Her heart is pounding. Her palms are sweating. The old voice is screaming at her to run. But she starts speaking. She talks about her idea. She talks about the creative vision. She shows her sketches. She explains her strategy. And something happens. The fear doesn't disappear, but it becomes background noise. The passion takes over. The passion that she's been cultivating for weeks, the passion that she almost lost, the passion that her grandmother saw in her when she was 12 years old. That passion takes the stage. She finishes her presentation. There's silence. The executives exchange glances. And then her supervisor smiles. "That was unexpected," he says. "That was really good, Elena. Where did that come from?" And Elena realizes, he didn't ask why she was hiding it. He just acknowledged it. He just saw her. He just recognized the person she's been becoming. She didn't get the promotion that day. She didn't become an instant success. She didn't win the campaign. But she got invited to join the creative team. She got asked to contribute to other projects. She got recognized as someone with value. And in that moment, everything changed. Let me tell you what happened next. Elena didn't become a different person overnight. She became a different person through small, consistent actions. She became a different person by showing up every day, even when it was hard. She became a different person by refusing to let the fear win. She continued painting. She continued growing. She continued facing her fears. And 1 year later, she had her first exhibition. It was a small exhibition, in a small gallery, with a small audience. But it was her exhibition. Her paintings. Her dreams. Her courage. Her grandmother would have been proud. Not because of the exhibition. Because of the showing up. Because of the refusal to give up. Because of the decision to become who she always was, hiding underneath all those layers of fear. Elena's story is not a story about talent. It's a story about courage. It's a story about the science of habits, and the power of identity, and the importance of showing up. It's a story that is being lived out, in different forms, by millions of people every single day. So here is the question I want to leave you with. What is your box? What is the dream you've been hiding from yourself? What is the habit that's keeping you small? What is the fear that's been running your life? And what would happen if you opened the box? What would happen if you picked up the brush? What would happen if you made the ugly stroke? What would happen if you decided, today, right now, that you are not the person you were yesterday? Here is what the science of habits teaches us: you are not fixed. You are not permanent. You are not the sum of your past decisions. You are a process. You are a story that is still being written. And every single day, you get to choose what happens next. You can choose to hit the snooze button. Or you can choose to get up. You can choose to check your phone for validation. Or you can choose to give yourself permission to be enough. You can choose to stay in your cubicle. Or you can choose to take a risk. You can choose to leave your paints in the box. Or you can choose to create something terrible and beautiful and completely, imperfectly yours. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. It will always be yours. The prison has no walls but the ones you built. And the keys? The keys have been in your hands all along. Elena is not extraordinary. She is not more talented than you. She is not more disciplined than you. She is not more deserving than you. She is just someone who decided to try. Someone who decided to show up. Someone who decided that the fear of failure was less important than the possibility of becoming. And if she can do it, so can you. Not because life is easy. Not because change is simple. Not because the fear will ever completely disappear. But because you have something inside you that is worth fighting for. You have a dream that will not let you go. You have a voice that needs to be heard. You have a life that is waiting for you to live it. Potential is never lost because of a lack of talent. It is lost one excuse at a time, one postponed dream at a time, one comfortable day after another. The life you want is waiting not for a better version of you, but for the decision you make today. So open the box. Pick up the brush. Make the first stroke. Your grandmother is watching. Your future is watching. And the person you could become is asking you, right now, to finally show up. The door is open. All you have to do is walk through it.